Video 2. Topic: Syndicated loans and corporate revolving credit lines for commercial growth. Section 1. The lending landscape and strategic corporate debit capacity. High-end financial graphics illustrating corporate capital structures, balance sheets allocations, and charts tracking global debt markets, corporate capital structures, and debt optimization. Hello, welcome back to this advanced corporate banking masterclass focusing on the execution, structuring, and strategic deployment of large-scale corporate credit facilities. For any middle market enterprise transitioning into a large corporate entity of or established multinational corporation orchestrating major commercial expansion, the optimization of the liability side of the balance sheet is just as critical as managing operationally revenues. Securing large pools of debt capital is not merely about finding a lender. It requires a sophisticated approach to institutional debt structures, commercial credit evaluation, and corporate debt capacity planning. When a corporate finance department plans its next major growth phase, whether that involves organic capital expenditure for new manufacturing plants, strategic global supply chain expansion, or programmatic mergers and acquisitions, the leaderships face a vital question: how do we fund this growth without diluting current shareholder equity? While public equity markets offer permanent capital, they come at the cost of ownership dilution and strict public market scrutiny. Therefore, corporate debt remains the primary engine for corporate capital expansions. However, as an enterprise scales, its capital requirement quickly outgrow the balance sheet capacity of a single commercial bank. A single financial institution operating under strict regulatory frameworks like lending limits, risk concentration policies, and internal credit rating mandates cannot prudently expose tens or hundreds of millions of dollars to one single corporate borrower. This operational reality necessitates the transition from simple bilateral commercial loans to complex structured debt instruments, specifically syndicate loans and multi-currency corporate revolving credit lines. Throughout this 14,000-minute executive presentation, we will dismantle the complex mechanics behind large-scale corporate lending. We will explore how corporate borrowers evaluate their debt capacity using institutional metrics like leverage ratio and debt service coverage ratio. We will dissect the technical boundaries between flexible short-term operational credit lines and structured syndicate term facilities. Furthermore, we will take you behind the closed those of Tier 1 global commercial banks to analyze exactly how credit syndicates are organized, priced, underwritten, and legally governed. For CFOs, corporate treasurers, and institutional advisors mastering this commercial banking instrument is the definitive key to unlocking massive low-cost capital reserves while preserving operational flexibility. Section 2. Bilateral credit lines versus complex revolving credit facilities. A detailed comparative diagram displaying a simple bilateral credit agreement on one side and a multi-bank, multi-currency revolving credit facilities on the other. That's operational flexibility versus scalable liquidity architecture. Before diving into the multi-bank syndication market, we, we must first establish the structural foundation of commercial lending by contrasting traditional bilateral credit lines with institutional revolving credit facilities, commonly known as RCFS. A bilateral credit line represents a direct, singular financing relationship between one corporate borrower and one commercial bank. These structures are typically utilized by mid-market enterprises to manage seasonal working capital fluctuations, fund immediate inventory build-ups, or provide bridging liquidity during temporary accounts receivable delays. Bilateral agreements are relatively straightforward to negotiate, carry lower legal and administrative overhead, and are deeply rooted in the localized corporate relationship between the bank's relationship manager and the enterprise financial team. However, bilateral lines possess inherent scalability sidelines. If the enterprise suddenly requires an unexpected injection of capital to secure a time-sensitive acquisition or respond to a massive supply chain disruption, a single bilateral lender may not possess the immediate credit appetite or capital allocation headroom to expand the facility. To transcend this limitation, large-scale enterprises deploy a multi-bank revolving credit facility. An RCF is a highly sophisticated corporate banking product that allows a borrower to draw down, repay, and withdraw funds flexibly over a multi-year term, usually ranging from 3 to 5 years. unlike a standard term loan where the principal is disbursed in one lump sum and systematically amortized. An RCF functions as an elastic financial safety net. The corporate treasury can draw down 20 million US dollar on a Monday to fund an international trade shipment to pay 500 million US dollar the following week using incoming client receivables and retain the continuous contractual right to draw up to the maximum facility limit at any point during the commitment period. Furthermore, institutional RCFs are frequently structured as multi-currency facilities for a multinational corporation operating across various jurisdictions, drawing debt exclusively in United States dollars, introduce substantial foreign exchange exposure if the underlying operational revenues are generated in euros, Singapore dollars, or Japanese yen. A multi-currency RCF allows the corporate treasury to execute the drawdowns in the exact currency required by their foreign subsidiaries, matching liabilities directly with local asset revenue and executing internal balance sheet hedging without entering separate derivative markets. The negotiation of an RCF involves commitment to fee structures where the corporation pays a small premium on the on 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 the least portion of the credit line to compensate the banking group for legally committing their capital balance against the interest rate charged on the active drawdown balance. The mechanic Section 3. The mechanics of institutional loan syndication tiers. A hierarchical flow chart illustrating the loan syndication tier structure. Top level, lead arranger, book runner. Middle level, co-arranger managers. Bottom level, participating institutional lenders. When a corporation capital requirement crosses the institutional threshold, typically anywhere above 5,000 billion US dollars to upwards of several billion dollars, the debt requirement moves into the syndicated loan market. A syndicated loan is a structured transaction where a group of financial institutions, known collectively as a syndicate, jointly provide capital to a single corporate borrower under single unlimited credit agreement. This setup allows the corporate borrower to secure massive financing packages without negotiating separate conflicting loan agreements with 10 different banks. The architect of loan syndication is strictly hierarchical, divided into distinct institutional layers. At the pinnacle of this structure stand the lead arranger, often designated as the mandate lead arranger (MLR) or joint work-runner. The corporate borrower selects the lead arranger based on track the bank balance sheet strength, investment bank track record, and deep distribution networks within the global capital markets. The lead arranger taken on the primary responsibility of structuring the transaction, determining the initial pricing matrix, drafting the preliminary confidential information memorandum, and underwriting the initial credit risk. Once the mandate is secure, the lead arranger initiates the book building phase. This is where the loan is marketed to subsequent tiers of financial institutions. The next tier consists of co-arranger of lead managers who commit substantial chunks of capital to the facility, often in exchange for higher tier fee distribution. Finally, the loan is distributed to participating lenders, which can include regional commercial banks, institutional asset managers, insurance funds, and specialist collateralized loan obligation vehicles. These participating lenders take a smaller tranche of debt, relying on the extensive credit analysis and due diligence originally performed by the lead arranger. From an underwriting perspective, syndication structures generally fall into two categories. One, a fully underwritten deal. Two, a best efforts arrangement. In a fully underwritten syndication, the lead arranger contractually guarantees to provide the entire loan amount to the corporate borrower on the closing date, even if they fail to sell down the debt to other banks. This provides the corporate borrower with absolute execution certainty, which is vital when closing high-stakes mergers and acquisitions. In a best effort syndication, the lead arranger commits to managing the book building process but does not guarantee the final amount. If market conditions deteriorate or investor appetite is weak, the corporate borrower may end up with a smaller credit facility than originally anticipated. Section 4. Credit pricing, SOFR benchmarks, and underwriting metrics. A detailed financial ledger showing how credit pricing is calculated, formulas displaying SOFR plus credit spread adjustment plus margin grid based on leverage ratios, financial charts tracking historical SOFR volatility. Understanding how global commercial banking institutions price massive corporate debt facility in is essential for any corporate finance executive looking to optimize their total cost of capital. In the current United States financial system, corporate lending has completely transitioned away from legacy benchmarks like LIBOR, London Interbank Offered Rate, to the modern standard SOFR, the secure overnight financial rate. Unlike LIBOR, which was based on subjective interbank estimated rewards and was highly vulnerable to market manipulation, SOFR is a fully transparent, data-driven benchmark based on actual overnight transactions in the massive US Treasury repurchase or repo market. Because SOFR reflects risk-free overnight lending secured by US government debt, it behaves differently than credit-sensitive rates. When a bank was syndicated loan of revolving credit line, the pricing structure is expressed as a floating rate formula. Specifically, term SOFR plus a designated credit spread margin measure is basis points. For instance, a corporation might secure a facilities price at term SOFR plus 175 basis point. This margin is rarely static. It is typically tied to a dynamic pricing grid that fluctuates based on the corporation's ongoing financial health. When the company leverage ratio improves, the pricing grid automatically shifts downward, lowering the interest rate spread as a reward for reduced credit risk. Conversely, if leverage increases, the margin ticks upward to protect the lender's capital returns. To determine whether an enterprise qualifies for this institutional credit package, bank underwriting teams execute a rigorous quantitative evaluation of the corporate balance sheet. The first metric they analyze is the debt service coverage ratio, or the DSCR. The DSCR measures the company's ability to honor its ongoing interest and principal obligation using its core operational cash flow. It is calculated by dividing the company's net operating income or adjusted EBITDA by its total annual debt service liabilities. A DSCR below 1.0 indicates that the company's operational revenues are insufficient to cover its debt payments without drawing on external liquidity reserves, a major red flag for any credit committee. Simultaneously, underwriters scrutinize the total leverage ratio, typically expressed as net debt to EBITDA. This metric establishes the overall debt burden relative to the cash-generating capacity of the enterprise. Alongside leverage, banks calculate the interest coverage ratio to ensure that even in a high-interest rate environment, the corporate earnings can comfortably absorb floating rate interest shock. Understanding this exact metrics allows corporate treasury teams to proactively manage their corporate financials, ensuring they present an optimized credit profile before initiating formal credit negotiation with global banking syndicates. Section 5, Legal Governance, Covenant Monitoring, and Compliance Frameworks. A comprehensive legal document checklist showing key financial covenants, reporting mandates, and administrative agent workflows, icons representing compliance, tracking, and corporate governance audits. As we bring this corporate lending masterclass to a close, we must address the critical operational reality that occurs after the credit agreement is signed and the capital is successfully closed. Large-scale syndicated loans and institutional revolving credit facilities are governed by extensive, legally binding credit agreements that place strict reporting mandates and operational boundaries of the corporate borrowers. Managing this post-closing compliance framework is a primary daily responsibility of the corporate treasury and corporate legal departments. The heart of post-closing credit governance is the continuous monitoring of covenant. Financial covenants are quantitative, contractual benchmark that the corporate borrower must maintain throughout the entire life cycle of the loan facility. These typically include maintenance covenants such as maintaining a maximum net leverage ratio or a minimum interest coverage target, which are assessed quarterly. If a corporate borrower experiences a severe market downturn and their quarterly financial testing reveals that their leverage has breached the contractually agreed ceiling, the company enters into what is known as a technical default. A technical default does not mean the company has run out of cash or missed a payment. It means they have violated the risk parameters established in the credit agreement. When a default occurs, the administrative agent, the financial institution chosen by the syndicate to handle ongoing operational communication, loans distribution, and compliance tracking notifies the banking group. The syndicate then holds the legal right to accelerate the debt, demand immediate repayment on interest, the late interest pricing rate significantly. However, in the vast majority commercial banking practice, a technical default triggers a negotiation phase where the corporate borrowers seeks of a formal covenant waiver or an amendment to the credit agreement, which frequently requires paying substantial amendment fees and accepting tighter operational restriction. Beyond financial covenant, corporate credit agreements contain negative covenants that restrict specific corporate action without prior syndicate approval. This can include limitation on it incurring additional debt with the debt pledging corporate assets as collateral to other lenders, executing passive assets divestitures, or distributing excessive cash dividend to equity shareholders. By implementing structured compliance workflows and utilizing automated covenant tracking software, corporate finance teams can ensure they maintain flawless transparency with their banking partners, maintaining strict covenant compliance preserves the enterprise access to vital liquidity, protects its corporate credit reputation, and ensure a stable capital foundation for long-term commercial growth. Thank you for participating in this advanced corporate lending masterclass. We encourage you to analyze your organization current capital structure, consult with your debt capital markets advisor, and proactively engage with your commercial banking partners to optimize your institutional lending strategies. See you next in my video.